And we are live for the second time this week. What a beautiful thing. HFPod live coming at you Wednesday, April 6th, 2022. What a good day to be here. What a good afternoon to hang out with RJ and Megan. This is the Helping Friendly podcast on tour, live, coming to your living rooms, your place of work, your cell phones, wherever you may be at this point in time. Thank you for joining us and hanging with us here in the afternoon hour. RJ, let's start with you. How are you doing here today?
I'm great. Nice to see you both. I'm just ready to talk about fish with you guys.
It's that simple. Just
That's
talk about fish. That's every week we're like, what are we going to talk about? And someone just says, can we just talk about fish? I'm like, fine, let's just talk about fish, Megan, how are you?
I'm doing great. I am also excited to talk about fish. There's kind of a twist this week, too. There's a little bit of a twist.
There's a slight twist.
A little bit of a twist. So that's fun.
Some would say there's an island tour twist.
Mm-hmm.
That level of a twist. Today's episode, we are talking about Mr. Chris Kuroda, the lighting director for the rock band Fish. Talking about his impact on Fish history, what we love and appreciate about him, as well as we are going to dive a bit into a quick celebration of the island tour, because like the both of you, I'm guessing, I know you are, Jay. Megan, I'm guessing you're the same way. I listen to the island tour once a year on the anniversary days of the island tour happening. I don't listen to it at all throughout the rest of the year. I've listened to it so many times that it just comes up for me in early April every year. And every year I listen to it and go, my God, what an incredible thing that this band did. And I can't wait to dive into that with you guys. It's going to be good. We are also going to be clarifying some Fish history around Chris Kuroda, because part of the reason that we're talking about Chris Kuroda today is 33 years ago tomorrow, he sat in on lights for the very first time, which is just news that was confirmed to us here coming over the airways just about 5 minutes ago, which should be fun to dive into,
Breaking news. We're breaking news all the time.
Breaking news all
Always.
the time here at HFPod. If you have some news that needs to be broken, it could be fish related, it could be local news, we will cover it, because we are a nationally syndicated and locally reported fish news organization here.
I mean, Brian loves to talk about the weather. So if you want to talk about the weather, we can do that too.
The weather is insane right now. We had 116 mile an hour winds on the eastern plains of Colorado yesterday. It is crazy. I tried to go outside and run today, and it felt like I was running uphill the entire time. It was terrible.
That's why you need to get on your Peloton, Brian.
This is true. This is an ongoing battle.
You are so into your Peloton, huh, RJ? You're inspiring me.
It's just a great way to exercise. We can talk about it more if you guys want, but maybe we should do that off live.
That's probably more appropriate.
Peloton is not currently a sponsor of Osiris Media, but with the amount that Osiris Media's CEO posts about Peloton, you would think that we should probably get sponsorship deal from. I just don't like the stationary aspect. I need to be in movement, and my wife loves the Peloton. She puts in more work on the Peloton for the both of us. So she fulfills the monthly subscription in our house. But I love going outside and running. But I think you're probably right with the weather right now in early spring in Colorado. I should probably jump on the Peloton this afternoon. Before I do that, though, we are here to tell you about our sponsor at Sunset Lake CBD. Who's doing the sponsorship read today? I completely forgot. Am I doing this first one?
Yeah, you're doing the first one.
You're doing
I'm going to do the second one.
Cool. This is live TV. Sunset Lake CBD's smokable line of hemp products. Their line of smokable hemp products are for the old deadhead, the young fish fan, the teeny weeny goosehead, whoever it may be, who is searching for the mellow body high. Smoking CBD has all the benefits of high THC cannabis without the paranoia or the anxious side effects, things I know a lot about from smoking THC for years. With 9 different strains from this year's harvest, there's something for everyone. Hawaiian Haze is awesome for an outdoor show. Cherry Abacus is best for the end of the night. All the flower is grown, cured, and trimmed by Sunset Lake CBD farmers. Even better, Sunset Lake CBD's farm-to-table approach gets you great pricing on premium CBD flower by shipping it directly from their farm to your door. I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'll be concise here. I love smoking grass. It's one of my favorite pastimes. I found smoking THC. I still enjoy it, but it's an all-encompassing thing. It's the kind of thing that I can only really do at like 9:30 at night, sitting around a fire, throwing on some Neil Young and Crazy Horse, and just smoking some THC and just letting it take me away. CBD fits my lifestyle better. I can do it in the middle of the day. I can do it and still be a really good parent. I can do it and take a walk and get some like work stuff thought out in my head. There's so much that you can do with CBD, and it just relaxes you. It mellows you out. It's absolutely perfect. I'd encourage all of you to check them out today at sunsetlakecbd.com. Use the coupon code HFPod for 20% off all products. Sunset Lake CBD, farmer owned, Vermont grown. What a beautiful thing. And with that, let's jump into the show.
Let's do it.
Chris Kuroda. Chris Kuroda. What does that name mean to you guys? Let's start there.
CK5. He's the 5th member of the band. That's what it means to me. I think that he's really influenced not only Fish, but also just the jam band scene enormously.
I would say the rock scene as well, and just like lighting in general.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the best lighting designer out there.
Yeah.
And we're lucky to have him.
Yeah, it's hard to like summarize that. I mean, it affects the whole experience so much, you know? It's not just the lights, it's just like the way that which he's talked about before on Undermine and on other shows and in other interviews. Like it's part of the show, you know, and it wouldn't be the same at all with a different lighting designer. I can't even imagine what a Fish show would be like. I think it would be pretty different.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was first getting into the band, and like you're learning all these different aspects of Fish history, and I don't know when it was, but someone mentioned to me that, oh yeah, the lighting director lights the band along with the music, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I you know, you tend to think about it in like various steps, but I saw the War on Drugs back in February, and it was a killer show, and I noticed they had a similar rig to what Chris uses. They had those like LED lights that kind of like go up and down in bands, and like they collect the smoke, and like it gives this great effect. And I don't mean any disrespect, but it was very clear that the lighting director was not going along with the music, and the impact of Chris using all of that technology with the way that Fish is jamming in the moment adds something completely different to a show than you get from a standard rock show.
Yeah, I mean, in the same way that the band can improv after being together this long, he can also do that too. And he knows the music so well. And he's so present and in the moment with them in a way that I think most lighting designers probably design the show and then just move on. And the show is the same every night. So to have someone there actually at that level, operating the lights in the moment, it's pretty spectacular.
I think he's gotten more important over time, you know,
Totally.
to the music and to the experience. It seems like it's obviously partially technology. Like technology has become a much bigger part of rock shows in general, right? Between Brian and I talked about this a lot because our colleague Matt came up with this idea for a show about U2's Zoo TV tour, which was like one of the first, right, Brian, to like really go all out with screens and technology. And now it's just like it's insane the kinds of things people do at shows. But I think it's not just that he has like more advanced gear. It's the like this, just like we've talked about with the band, like he's gotten more experienced along with the band, and he can just do more. He can just do more now than he didn't before, you know. I don't know. It's pretty crazy to think about like a different lighting designer. I don't know. Would it be as different as I think it is, or would it like would someone be able to figure out how to like press the same buttons over time?
Well, it's an interesting question because we're going to talk about that because that did happen prior to Chris Kuroda becoming the lighting designer. I think it's his story adds to the lore of Fish, this sense of like someone with zero lighting experience who just hears music and just seems to feel and embody music like in his soul. And that's just something you can't really put on a resume. That's something you either have or you don't have. It's kind of like the separation between, from a sports standpoint, like a guy who can, get you outs as a reliever and a guy who has like two or three pitches that are just completely unhittable. There's people who are, they can they are lighting directors, they're lighting designers, and then there's someone like Chris Kuroda who takes it to a completely different level. I mean, I think something you said, Megan, that's really interesting is it's set this standard in the jam band world where if you're a jam band on the rise, you can't just jam in concert. You can't just play a different set every night. You can't just have like gimmicks and inside jokes with your fans. You have to also have this other component of a lighting director who's going to showcase your show in a way that a standard lighting show or light show will not do. And that adds just another element to the culture of the scene, while then also impacting the rock, or the sports world. Like you watch a Knicks game on TV, and when they show like the commercial broadcast, like the lights are all Chris Kuroda, and the ambiance that's set in MSG during a Knicks game, a Rangers game, now at the Chase Center during a Warriors game, it's all Chris Kuroda's vision. So part of the reason that we were talking about this, a bit of behind the scenes, we've built out a huge log of important dates and important events in Fish history that we're using as we build out episodes here going forward from a live standpoint. And in that, we had 4/7/89 from the Old Stone Church in Newmarket, New Hampshire. It's an incomplete set list. The only songs that we have on here are Colonel Foreman's Ascent into Famous Mockingbird. And it reads in the show notes that the set list is incomplete. This show marks the beginning of Chris Kuroda's career as Fish's lighting director. Chris ran lights during Mockingbird, while the then lighting director, Chris Stetcher, was in the bathroom. Trey compliments Stetcher on the lights for Mockingbird after later learning that it was Kuroda who actually ran the lights to that song. Chris was then named the new lighting director the following day.
I love that. Do you think he was like that? Chris Stechter was like, "Oh yeah, they were great. Yeah, for sure. Like, you're welcome." And then later I was like, "Was it me?" Like, what an ill-timed bathroom run.
It also like leads to the lore of just like Kuroda, because I've read, they don't say it here, but I've read this in other places that like they had 3 lights at the time. It was like a yellow, green, and red light or something like that. And he basically just alternated between green and blue or green and yellow during the riff in Mockingbird. And Trey was like, "Whoa, this guy's like finally hearing our music and aligning the lights with our music." And that was like the simplest, like, this is what you would go to if you just were stepping in for one song to play with Fish.
It's like so great.
So that's crazy. I was looking at the Stone Church. Do you guys know about the Stone Church?
No.
It's like this. It's a really small and interesting place. It's been there for 50 or so years, and they've had like, I mean, the number of people who played there is pretty wild. They've had like Aerosmith and a bunch of bands that I think it's a little bit of like a destination, even though it's a small place. But I want to try to. How do I show a picture? Is that a possible thing?
Yeah, it is a possible thing. What are you trying to show here?
I'm just. We can do it later. It's too complicated. I just want to show you guys what the Stone Church looks like. So I think we should go there, and I think we should do a live HFPod from there at some point because it looks like an awesome place. But it has a really small stage, and some tables and a bar. And so I'm wondering like how much the lights really matter in a place like that, because it seems like for them to notice, it must have been a pretty big deal. But the lights that are there are like, you know, the stage built-in stage lights. So I don't know how much you could actually do with a place like that, but it seems like they did it.
It seems like they did it, and it's this, I don't know, it's just like this happy accident that happens in their career. Because if you think about Fish in the spring of 1989, you know, we did an entire season a year ago on the 1980s, and one of our conclusions was that by 1989, Fish was essentially Fish. They had an idea about what their best songs were. They had an idea about how to structure a show starting in 1989. I mean, for God's sakes, they played the Paradise 2 months earlier, one of the biggest gigs in Fish history, and Chris Kuroda has nothing to do with it. You know, it's this monumental moment for the band. They've played faux festivals at this point in time, and here they are, a fairly well-established college rock band. You think about the dinner movie that they showed from Northampton, Massachusetts. That was April 1st, or that was May 1st, 1989. That was just a few weeks after this. So like, and by that point, Fish seemed to have like a pretty clear understanding of who Fish was and what show they're trying to bring to people. And all the while they run into this guy who starts working for them, who happens to be the future of lighting in rock concerts. It's crazy to conceive of that actually being a realistic story.
That is crazy. So okay, Brian, I'm just gonna try something real quick here. Look at that.
There it
We
is.
did it.
Well
I did it.
done.
So that's the stone church. So you look at how much room the lighting designer has to work with.
There's like the 3 can lights.
Yeah, exactly. That's like all there is. But apparently Kuroda did an amazing job with it.
Well, they're probably just like stationary on, like maybe switching colors, and then Kuroda just like flashed them, and then that was all it took.
Yeah, and it must have been more
Solid
about the syncing with the music
Mhm.
as opposed to like what he was doing with the lights. So I hope that visual aid was helpful. But although people who are listening after, it's not going to be that helpful. So sorry.
They can look it up. They can look it up.
True. Good point.
And good
Yeah.
good motivation for them to watch the live.
And I got a shout out for being able to pull that off technologically. It's important. It's important. It's important to recognize that.
So
I think that this speaks to who they are, though, that this guy, I mean, he answered an ad in the paper and became a roadie. And a week later, right, he started on the 30th, 3:30. Is that right, Brian? 89 as a roadie. And like a week later, he just happens to jump on the light rig to fill in for someone for a minute and becomes this integral part of the band and the show. And I think that's just who Fish is. They've always kind of had a magic about them.
yeah, it's funny because as we were preparing for this, I was I noticed Kevin Shapiro tweeted last week on the 30th that this was Kuroda's first day with the band. And I went back and forth, emailed him, was emailing with Charlie Dirksen because the fish.net reference is that this was the first date. April 7th was the first date of him on the rig. The Farmer's Almanac, the Fish Companion all say that this show actually happened a week prior to the 30th, and that the 30th was his first show as the lighting director. I think we have it sorted out now. I just heard from Charlie Dirksen before we went live that the 30th was, to your point, Megan, his first day as a roadie, and that a week later just happened to be in the right place at the right time. Chris Stetcher goes to the bathroom, says, "Hey man, can you just step in? Just like, I just need you to watch this lighting rig. That's like, just hit a few buttons, make sure it looks like the show's going on. I'll be right back." Him coming right back means that Chris Kuroda is now the lighting director forever, which is crazy. The only shows that he has not been the director for Fish concerts was the April 15th, 16th, and 17th shows of 2004. He was out for personal reasons. Fenton Williams of the Dave Matthews Band was there. And to your question, RJ, will we notice a difference? Yes. Yes.
I mean, that was a really bad luck that guy had to do those shows.
Right.
because I don't
All
think
I-
anyone could have saved those shows, really.
Maybe
At
it was
some point,
Chris
we're
that
going to
was
address
missing.
those shows because I was there. I have very complicated thoughts on them. But yes,
me
I
too.
don't think anybody could have. Were you at those shows?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
It was complicated for everyone. I didn't even know that, though. I didn't even know that
I didn't
that
either.
happened.
It
I
all
remember
makes
it was
sense now.
announced like the day before that, oh, by the way, Kuroda's not going to be here, but hey, everyone come down. We're all going to have a really good time. It's going to be awesome. It's Vegas in spring. And man, it was a messy experience.
All I know is I'm never going to the bathroom during an HFPod live because someone could just like jump in and take my spot. Like my kid or my dog.
true.
I don't know. Somebody could just jump in. So you have to be careful.
You do have to be careful. You got to
Megan's kids got great fish opinions.
You got to protect it. You got to protect the seat.
Yeah, for real. Apparently.
I would be curious to hear, and it would be awesome to hear at some point this 4789 show, because I have to imagine with how talkative Trey was at the point in time at the end of Mockingbird, he must have shouted out the lights. You have to imagine that at some point he was like, hey, did everyone see that? That was cool. I did go back and I was listening to, just as I was trying to figure all this out, the 3:30:89 show from the front in Burlington. And just a couple quick points about this show. It has 3 debuts, one of which would be with the band for a long, long time. The Mango song opens the second set. And it's clear the band just doesn't have a grip on the chorus at that point in time. It's very endearing, but it's a total, like, we don't know what to do with this song. The Price of Love debuts, which, if you have not heard of that song, it's because it's a Ninja Custodian song, which was Fish's brethren in Burlington. They play it with members of Ninja Custodian. It was played at one of 2 shows, this one and Ian's Farm, in May of '89. To me, it sounds like what Fish would sound like if they wrote songs like OAR or like Dispatch. It has a very like Northeastern frat bro-y vibe to it. And then Undone, a song by the Guess Who debuts, which was an early Fishman Antic song. So fun show. Definitely one of those, like, just dive into the history of Fish in these kind of small little venues. But I had a question for you all. Kuroda sitting in during this Mockingbird. Is this the greatest what if in Fish history?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I buy that. I can't think of an alternative at the moment. There must have been some point when Page played with them. I don't know if there was like rehearsals or an audition or how Page actually got involved in the first place, but that might be, if there was like a moment, then that would be the moment. But I don't know if there was.
That's a good point, because there was I think Mike was petitioning for Page to join the band.
Mm-hmm.
And Trey was like, no, we're a 2-guitar band. We don't need keyboards. But that's a good point. What if Jeff stayed, or what if Dobbs stayed? Yeah. What if Fish had a percussionist? That would be interesting. Or what if they were a 2-guitar band? That would totally change the dynamic of things.
Yeah. Jeff stayed. That would have been huge.
But this sit-in for one song, whatever it was, 6 minutes of history.
And it completely changes, as we were talking about. Like, it changes jam band history. It changes. Look at Phil Cassetta's picture is the hourglass. Could you imagine that being possible with any other lighting director? I mean, the way that the screen was lit up, the lights off of it. I mean, I just think of so many moments. Do you guys have like a favorite era for Kuroda?
I mean, probably right now.
The moving rig.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It's just insane. It's hard to explain,
The moving rig's amazing because you can watch it from behind and it's still super fascinating. I think I've seen it from like right directly on the side, right behind, and right in front. And it's incredible. As someone who grew up doing theater and goes to see a lot of Broadway shows, there's nothing like that where the lights actually take on shapes and tell a story and move and become almost like a character. Like, and I don't think it's just the drugs. I think they really do kind of like he envelops in a way that and makes the stage three-dimensional in a way that is I think totally revolutionary.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like when it's such a good point of like I don't think there's been any rig that he's used that allows so many different angles of viewing throughout the arena or throughout the venue to like just hit you in a very different way. I mean, I've seen that rig from far back in places. I've seen it from very close up, and in every place that you go, the moving rig just hits you. I really loved the 2013 to 2015 lighting rig that he was using that had it didn't move, but it had like these lights across the front of the stage that really gave a stop making sense vibe to a lot of their jams. It would just like go up into like the bands, like right up into their faces, and like it would like cast a really cool shadow off them. It also had this screen behind them that would change colors and whatnot. It was I don't know, it's just such an interesting take on it. I also love when I think about like 97 and just like the simple, it was like a palette of lights. It wasn't crazy. It was all stationary. But it just added such a cool backdrop to some of those jams in 1987.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I tend to think about it as like the lights weren't as good, and so it just along with the technology point I made earlier. But I do think some of those were really cool. Also, Ghost of the Forest was a pretty sweet setup. That was pretty wild.
Do you
I
have
like
any
seeing pictures from some of the 2000s rigs, those like huge ones, which is like all the lights. I mean, those were really massive, huge rigs. If you look at pictures of that, it's pretty insane. I think that photography of fish shows is the way it is definitely because of Kuroda. I mean, the way you can take shots now of the band, it's just, I think it definitely changes not only the way people are experiencing the show there, but the way that the imagery that people leave with about the shows in a huge way.
Yeah, it's wild. I like think about how many pictures I have on my phone of the stage, and I don't even like try to zoom in on the band members because the whole like the thing I'm trying to capture is the way that the lights look in that moment and the impact that had on like that point in the show. Do you guys have any favorite moments that you've like either witnessed live or you've seen just like on screen? Where Kuroda's lights just like connect with the band in such a perfect way.
I mean, I think there's certain songs that I think of like Mike's and like the dark red that comes out and like those evil moments. And when you get like the really juicy dark reds, I just think certain songs have like certain lights in my mind. Like when I listen to them, I think about that color or that kind of palette. I was really blown away this summer by the lights last summer when I was on tour. I just felt like there were so many moments when I was dancing or distracted, and then I would look up and the lights would be doing like some insane shape that I just wasn't expecting. I think there was a lot of those moments, not that I can recall off the top of my head, but I definitely feel like there was so many moments where I watched the stage more than I have in the past.
I think the moments have changed a little bit for me, at least. Like the jump into the Reba jam was always like one of the best lighting moments of a show. Just there was like it just went from the kind of frenetic Reba into the jam, and there would be like a purple bluish light that was just like stationary over the crowd that was perfect for that jam. And like the end of Antelope, when the jam ends and it goes back into the Rai Rai Rocco part, that too, there's like a couple of moments like that, which I don't notice as much anymore. I think it's more like during the improv where he's just doing insane shit that is noticeable. I don't even know if he does those same kind of breaks in those songs as he used to. It's probably different. I'm not sure that I've like noticed that much recently.
No, I think he does, because I mean your point about Reba is where I like, that's for me with Hood. It's when they go in, when they come out of the final Thank you, Mr. Hood. And he turns the lights. There's like a blue, purple, green somewhere in there. And no matter the lighting rig that I've seen, it's always the same. It's Slave does it as well. And you just feel like the lights are hugging you. I think improv wise, and maybe this is a good transition into our second segment, but the Island Tour twist is always one of my favorite moments where his lights, you talk about the like the 97 lights, which were basically just cans and they were stationary, and it was whatever he could do advancing that technology. Whatever he does in that twist on 4/2/98 just like matches this alien invasion, Close Encounters of the Third Kind type of jamming that the band has on stage. If you watch the video of it, it's on YouTube. It's just unbelievable to see every time you watch it. It looks like the stage is about to levitate and it's just going to blow through the Nassau Coliseum. It's unbelievable.
The Island Tour was pretty awesome, I'd say.
I like how you picked up on that segue and just went with it. That was perfect. The Island Tour was pretty awesome. Chris Kuroda is awesome, and the Island Tour is awesome. And it being April 6th means that it's time to look back on the Island Tour. RJ, you said it was awesome. Tell me your thoughts about the Island Tour. Just run with it. What do you feel? What is it like for you when you listen to and think back on the Island Tour?
Yeah, like you said earlier, I mean, it's the only run of shows that I really listen to on the anniversary. Like, I think in December sometimes I'll listen to like the 97 December run on the dates, but Island Tour every year, and maybe it's just because it's in April, so there's a break between New Year's and like we talked about in our bonus segment, not a lot of like March, February shows. So typically there's like, it's kind of like the first anniversary of the year to come up Fishwise. And I was at 3 of the 4 shows, and it just felt like so organic the way it came together. And the music was just, we didn't know it at the time, but it was sort of a transition between the 97 sound and what would become the kind of late 90s millennial sound. And some of those jams are just timeless. Most of the jams in that run are the ones that I like know exactly what's coming every single time, which means I've listened to it too much probably, but they're kind of perfect shows, all of them. I feel like the first night gets like the most attention somehow because of that twist jam you mentioned, which is great, but all 4 of the shows are just amazing.
Meg, were you at the Island Tour shows?
I was not. I wish. These shows are just masterful. It's like the perfect setlist construction. Every night just seems inspired, which is pretty incredible. But for a 4-night run to have every night, I mean, when I was re-listening back, it's hard to pick a favorite because there's just so many moments in each of these shows where you're like, wow, that was absolutely perfect. I mean, that first night, I absolutely love. That second set is just Wolfman's Sneak and Sally. Frankie Says, I mean, that is just like the perfect song in that spot into that twist. And then, Sleepy Monkey, they're having a blast. And an encore with Coyote. I mean, it's like really, really good stuff. And the first set is amazing too. I mean, the stash is incredible into horn waist. There's so many good moments from these shows. It's kind of ridiculous, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's wild how I listen back to these as one does on the anniversaries. I threw this on when I was driving on Saturday, 4/2/98, and I turned it up really loud as Tube comes in, and like I think I texted you all, like the way that Trey sings the first verse of Tube, he knows we sound great. We're super tight.
Yeah.
We're already in the pocket. Like we have 4 nights to do whatever we want. There's literally no expectations. We've just been recording together and making incredible music. We have new songs that we want to play for people that they've never heard before that are going to sound like jams from last fall. Like it had to be such a creative high point for them. and a moment of like, we can do everything. Like we can do anything. Like we just booked these shows 6 weeks ago and they sold out instantly. Like why would we do anything other than live in this bubble that we're in and just continue to create music for these people? I don't know. It feels like such a unified moment between band and audience as well, in terms of, we can just tell you, come to these shows, they're going to be great. And people are just going to show up to arenas, like, which 4 years earlier would have just been inconceivable for the band.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's only 2 debuts in the 4-show run, which, at this point, anytime you see Fish, like the beginning of any tour is going to have some new songs. Like that's just how it goes. But so I think your point, Brian, about how they were just comfortable where they were and happy, like content with where they were,
Yeah.
it seems like that's how this feels. And yeah, I was a freshman in college, so this was toward the end of my first year of college, and we just drove to Long Island and went to 2 shows, and then drove to Providence, and then drove back to Ohio, and it was just like it was continuing the like carefree and amazing feeling of fall '97. Just being able to see some shows right that close to that tour, which was so amazing, was just I feel like they felt the same way that we felt. And Nassau, a classic venue, of course, but that was the first time they played there.
I mean, how amazing must that have been to come off this tour where they just absolutely killed all fall, just one of their best tours ever. And I think they also had a sense of a huge accomplishment after 97, just the changes they've made sonically, and then to come in and play at this, like, in Nassau Coliseum. If you're a Grateful Dead fan, that is like, it's one of the famous places to sell out a 4-night run there and just kill it. You can tell there was magic there. It seems like the audience was just totally pumped too. I mean, the energy seems wild from the audience.
Yeah, and they make some just remarkable set listing decisions. Opening with Tube, a song that had a huge performance 4 months earlier in Dayton. Opening the second night with Mike's song and Mike's and Weekapog just going, just having these amazing performances. Opening the second set of the second night with Roses Are Free, a song that they played twice at the latter part of 97. It was clearly like a song that they liked at that point in time, and somehow taps into all the musical ideas that were stewing around at that point, and seems to point the band forward towards a more minimalistic, a more ambient type of jamming that you would hear throughout 1998 and 99. Then to close that show with Tweezer Reprise, after not playing Tweezer at all in the first 2 shows, only to open with Tweezer the following night. And then on the final night, you get a Oki Pa, You Enjoy Myself opener, which, to me just says, we just played 3 incredible shows. Tonight is just like sigh, like an exhale, and just like oh my God, we're just going to celebrate the fact that we just did this. This was not conceived, 3 or 4 nights ago before we started this.
It's amazing. I mean, there's so much music over those 4 shows, which is why it's just so, like, I don't know if there's another 4-show run that is as high quality musically as this. Maybe the kind of December 97 would be up there, but I don't know. It's so great. So great.
Yeah, I wonder what it is. I mean, the most recent edition of the Fish Companion, the hardcover version, has the great best week in Fish history ? And they have like 6 or 7 weeks throughout the band's
Mhm.
history where like they identify 5 or 6 show runs that were just really strong. I think that the very last one that they had logged at the time of it being released was the end of summer 2003, 7/29/03 to 8/3/03. But this is definitely in there as like the strongest stretch of every single show. As you said, it has highlights galore. I listen to these in full, and there's never a moment where I'm like, I'm going to skip past this song, or I don't necessarily need to hear this set. Every single set has a moment and has like flow in it that you have to listen to. Do you guys have a favorite set within the Island Tour weekend?
That is a very hard question. It's very
It's a
hard.
very hard question.
I think I was looking at the Fishnet rankings or ratings earlier, and out of the 3 shows in terms of the star rating, the fourth has the highest rating of the 4 shows, which I'm a little surprised by. I think that's my favorite overall show of the 4, but I was a little bit surprised that it had a higher rating than the others. I think it seems to me that the second set of 4-3 is like the most interesting of the 4. I think that's the most interesting. I think I texted a friend the other day and said, I think you could make an argument that that Roses Are Free jam is like the peak point of Fish 1.0.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean I think that might be the jam of the tour for sure. I also think the second set though from the last night is my favorite, just because I love the funk, and when Trey's talking
It's really
about
fun.
playing the funk, yeah, and it's just so fun when he's like, if you're not into this, you can leave, but if you like the funk, stay, let's dance, I mean, that, like, if Trey said that today, I would like have a heart attack and die of happiness. That is just, they're feeling it, they're feeling the groove right there. So for me, that's definitely my favorite set.
Yeah, I think the Roses Piper combination is the peak of musical improv for me of the overall weekend. It's just, there's so much interesting music happening. There's so much like the Piper is a jam out of the end of the song in a way that they've never jammed it since. And you get Trey's volume swells, Fishman, who just is like destroying his drums. It's like this wall of sound. I don't know. It sounds like deep in the recesses of human rhythmic playing. And then Page isn't on the clav. He isn't on the organ. He's not like, he's on this grand piano in this segment that is so psychedelic and so dark. And it's such a musical decision that like, I will always be fascinated by. And I love whenever the band is in a really deep psychedelic space, and Page, who has all these keyboards at his disposal, decides to stay on the baby grand piano and give it this like regal and elegant sound to it. But for me, I think the 4/4 second set, it's so fluid. You get this really cool Birds of a Feather jam, my favorite 2001 the band has ever played, Brother, that then goes into a jam, and then they pause it and come back and go, okay, that was the radio friendly edit. This next song's radio unfriendly. Like that moment is right there with what you were talking about, Meg, with like, if you don't want to dance the funk, you can go home, or you can stay and kick it with us. Like this, like them recognizing that like the radio is never going to play this, and we're going to play a 17-minute long Ghost here. But then you end with just like Fish royalty, Lizards and Bowie closes out the set, and they come out for the encore and they play Harry Hood. I don't know how you close a set better and then encore better at a point like that. It's just, I listen to that set in full, probably more than any other aspect of the Island Tour.
That set's amazing. That whole Birds 2001 Brother, it just sounds like one long jam with like some songs in it. Like it's just so packed with ideas. It's awesome.
It's a great way to describe it.
It's really, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's hard to like say that one show's better than the other. I do think I don't know if there's another song since like the early 90s that has been played twice in 3 shows. Like Birds of a Feather was played twice in this run. That's too advanced for me in terms of statistics, but it's pretty wild that like 2 days later they play it again and they just like jam
on the same
hell out of
run.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That song's amazing in these tours, though. It's like you can play it twice if you're going to play it that good. Even though Birds of a Feather makes me feel really bad about myself because I feel like it's like so judgmental about Fish fans.
I don't think so.
Am I dancing like in a curly Q dance right now? Like I need to stop.
Wow. I had never really thought about that. That's going to change the way I think about it now.
Sorry.
I think the argument for the second set of the third, I just want to add to the 4-song second set, which is amazing. The Carini, Halley's Comet, Tweezer Reprise Encore, which you alluded to earlier, Brian. But with the Carini and in Antelope, the Carini's Gonna Get You thing, that whole second set and encore is just like, that's just a moment in Phish history that I'll never forget. It was just like it was so wild, and I think musically, what I was saying earlier about like the peak of 1.0, like I think this is where the 97 sound was amazing, but they started to rely on like the funk, right, in the fall tour, which was great. I mean, one of the best tours ever, but they start adding more of these like dark, ambient sounds and just more like ideas, like you said, Megan, in this. And I think you can hear it toward the end of 97, especially in the New Year's run. But by this tour, they're like, that Rose's Jam is like it's like a representation of all the previous years of like improvisation that like led up to that point. And I feel like after that, it's not like it went downhill in 98 and 99, but I think it was like an evolution of that same approach. Like it got more ambient and more spacey and sort of more, they start to play with like the digital kind of tools that you hear more in 99 in this tour also. But I think this is like the apex to me of like the improv in 1.0, even though there's like a lot of great stuff in 98, 99. I just think this is the peak.
Yeah, it's interesting because I agree with a lot of what you're saying, and I feel like it's such a rare moment that we're so lucky that they did this. That evolution probably would have happened based on just time away from the stage and based on the music that they were playing as they were recording Story of the Ghost. But had they not played the island tour, they probably come back summer 98 and you hear this clear evolution of whatever they did in 97 is now a new sound that's picked up elements of it, but also has new ideas, scattered throughout. The island tour gives us this like halfway point between 97's funk and 98's ambient. And I almost wonder, where we're sitting here 2 weeks out from this MSG run. Phish plays this incredible summer tour in 2021. They play this fall tour that blows people away. The one show at Rock Lilith's that you can kind of, that was just like a show to really like celebrate that, like, okay, we can still play music even though we can't play in front of people right now. But then you have this Mexico run, this MSG run, and this, I think, 8-show early summer run before they actually hit the road for like a multi-week tour. And I wonder in a year or so if we're going to look back and hear Mexico, MSG, early summer 2022 as these like minor evolutionary steps forward in the same way the island tour took us from fall 1997 into late summer 1998. I don't know. It's all speculation at this point, but it's cool to hear them in such an isolated setting, taking aspects of their past and applying them as they're continuing. Constant evolution is going to always happen with Phish, and they did that in 1998.
But I think it's not just speculation because we kind of saw that in Mexico. We started to see kind of an evolution from the fall sound that I think was pretty amazing. It wasn't just a continuation of the fall sound. So I think you're right. I think we're totally going to hear, I think MSG is going to be really telling.
Yeah. Like what did they pick up from Mexico as well? And where does that go?
It's exciting.
I want to give a quick shout out after we shout out Phil Cassetta. I can never pick from these shows, but 4-3 and 4-4 second sets are in the top whatever, which is a really good way to put it.
Yeah.
The top whatever. I think that's like the best way to classify Phish ranking of all second sets. I've always looked at this as the behind the curtain look to what was about to happen in summer 98, which was yet another transformation. I think that's such 100%. A great way to put it. I want to shout out Brian Golenberg, who was here on Monday when we were talking through 4-4 1990. and has requested that we talk about 1990 again. We will get back there, Brian. We have a
Yes.
lot of content. Don't worry. We just have to celebrate Island Tour right now.
Jonathan will be so
Um,
happy.
Jonathan will be very happy about that because I've never seen him so giddy as he was during Monday's show. Can I share a quick story?
Yes.
Please.
Okay. So as I'm like understanding Fish as a total noob, I hear about the Island Tour, and of course, like the whole thing blows me away. And the person who got me into Fish like explained everything perfectly. He was like, "No, dude, you don't understand. They announce it, and like 3 weeks later, they're playing shows, and it's like the greatest shows ever." And I was like, "I gotta hear this." But at the time, I'm like collecting. I've got to hear 12/31/95, and I've got to hear a Halloween show, and I've got to hear a festival. So like the Island Tour took something of a back seat for me, and so I'd never heard any of these shows. Fast forward 2 summers, I ate mushrooms for the first time on night 0 at Bonnaroo, which is like a very classic 18-year-old thing to do. You're at a music festival for the first time and you just eat a bunch of drugs. And I was walking around with a friend at like 2:00 in the morning. We end up at a campsite and we're talking to people. And prior to this, like I'd read about the Roses Jam and I'd read about the Tweezerless Twee Prize and I'd read about this funky cavern, but I had never heard any of this stuff. And we're sitting out at the campfire and I'm still like in outer space. And I just start to hear this like funk groove. I knew that there was a Fish set playing in the background. I hear this funk groove and I hear Trey singing Cavern. And in my head in the moment, it's not Trey singing Cavern. It's like this giant lizard singing Cavern because it sounds so evil and so dark. And it's like coming from like 2 tents away. And I was like, I can't go over there and like in my state, I can't go over and like ask to confirm because I'm just going to be too insane about it. And I'm just sitting there like 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what it was, on just like another planet, listening for the first time this very specific moment in Fish history. It's always something I will go back to. Every time I hear that, I get like a little tingle in my spine of like I get taken back to
Little muscle memory.
a little like whoa. I can't listen to it when I'm like driving type of thing, but
That's amazing.
Oh, that's an
it was a
awesome
fun way to
story.
be
That cavern
introduced
is
to this.
special.
It really is.
Yeah. It really
Yeah,
is.
it's like slow and like super funky and like they're just this attitude to get the old lyrics. Like it's fun.
It's kind of like the best Fish banter of all time, which is saying something, which is a big statement to make. But it's kind of like it's the most fun banter I think
Yeah.
he's done.
I
Yeah,
agree.
it's such confidence. Like that is another thing I just take away from this run is just how the band kind of knew that they were the best band in the world at that point in time. And they were playing with it. And every time they spoke to the audience, it was like, we know we could schedule shows for 3 weeks from now and all of you would be there. And like
We've got you right here.
We've got you. You know what's wild is Todd Phillips films Fish at the Great Went, at Rochester 97, and in Europe summer 98, and does not get the call for the Island Tour. They have a documentary crew that's in contract with filming the band, and they don't catch any Island Tour stuff. It's unbelievable.
I mean, that's very weird.
They must have recorded it though, right?
There are videos on
be.
YouTube. There's fan shot.
But I mean,
it
like
looks like it's
like they did for the 97 shows for Dinner and a Movie. I mean, don't you think there's
There
video?
has to be video of it. Yeah.
they did 4/4 for Dinner and a Movie last year. So yeah, they have the like soundboard cam, but I don't think
Oh,
that they like
yeah.
professionally had like cameras up on stage the way that they did for Bittersweet Motel or for the Europe 98 shows.
I forgot that they did that for Dinner and a Movie.
I did too.
I think I might have, definitely didn't see it, but maybe I did after. Was it awesome?
It was awesome.
Great.
How did I miss that? I'm gonna have to watch that.
I think it's probably still up there. I think a lot of those are still up there. It's if I don't know what to watch at like 10:30 on a Friday night, I'm like queuing up an old Dinner and a Movie. It's the best.
It is on YouTube. I just found it in that short time that you were saying that it still exists. So definitely exists. I need to watch it.
I'm
I'm gonna watch
after
that.
this.
Mhm.
I'm going to say that I'm going to watch it, and then I probably won't. But I would love to.
Your goal is to watch it.
My goal is to watch it.
For the 25th anniversary Island Tour next year, we should just play the shows and just comment like Mystery Science Theater 3000.
That would be awesome. That would be
That is
awesome.
so fun.
Let's do it.
I gotta
Everyone
tell
can
you
just
guys,
hang out, share their comments,
I think we should do it. I'm really bad at watching videos. It's like one of the things that I'm least good at. Like YouTube, I'm just not like I don't use it very much. Like there are so many
I
shows,
don't
like
either.
full shows that get posted, and I just like don't spend a lot of time watching video. If I'm
It's a
watching
big
something,
commitment.
yeah,
You
I
can't
guess
do anything else, you know?
I mostly watch like an hour of TV with my wife at night after my kids go to bed, and then we go to bed. So like if we go to bed at the same time, I think that's actually a big part of it. Because I think if we went to bed at different times, I would have like a whole different life after she goes to sleep. It's kind of like when she leaves town and travels. I watch like sports and music stuff, and I
Yeah.
usually don't when she's around. Do you guys have like time where you watch things by yourself?
No, I go to bed. I read at the same time as my husband usually.
I'm a night owl, and I find that especially if I'm in the middle of editing a number of podcasts, having either a Grateful Dead show on YouTube or a Fish show on YouTube is a great background as I'm working through it. So that's usually when it will happen. Aside from that, I mean, shout out to everyone who's watching us on YouTube as we're talking about if you watch things on YouTube.
Yeah.
I really like watching Pod Save the World and the 538 Politics podcast on YouTube. I don't know why. I just like looking at those people rather than just like having them in my earbuds, and they're just they're good to have on in the background.
Wow. All right.
It is nice to see people's faces. You know, it's different. It's like
it's just
I'm
something
gonna
about
try to do
Ben
more of that.
Rhodes' partially balding head as he's talking through world events that just really gets me. Nate Silver's variety of hats.
Thank you for sharing that with us. All right, I'm gonna make a commitment before our next show to watch 4498 on video, so that it's just so I can do that.
The Fan 91.
Yeah.
I've always got a show playing on YouTube in the background.
Wow, YouTube.
I think we
Crazy.
need to get into this, RJ. Okay, we're gonna get into this.
There's a guy, I'm blanking on his name. I'm actually going to look it up right now. Christopher Hazard is who it is, who is done a great service for Grateful Dead fans ever. He's remastered it probably 150 at this point in time. Full Grateful Dead shows. I was watching last night as I was doing a little bit of work in the wee hours. I was watching 7/24/87 from Oakland, California. And he's done a ton of great work, like touching up the appearance of the band. It's very clear. It looks like it was filmed today, and seeing post-coma Jerry as he's like getting his health back, and Bob's shorts like literally like just go past his thighs. Phil's got this like buzz cut, it's like flat top, and the the bass without the head on it. Mickey's just like going crazy. I mean, Brent looks amazing in it. His beard, his hair,
so good.
It's great stuff. So 7/24/87, and then it's got a third set, Dylan, which I know this is controversial. We'll cover this in dead friendly podcast next. Yes, Chris Hazard is the Charlie Miller of YouTube. That is a really great way to put it. So look forward a year from now. We are going to do 4 straight nights. I'm putting it in stone right now. I'm going to book it in our planning doc. 4 straight nights, April 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We're going to watch the full Island Tour shows, talk about it as it's happening. And you guys can all join us for the 25th anniversary of the Island Tour. The Island Tour is amazing, and I'm so glad to talk about it with you guys. Anything else you want to say about it? Any jam that we forgot?
I just want to say that. Well, no, never mind. I was going to say something controversial. Also, they're great. There are a couple. There's one recent Goose show from Cleveland that was posted in full on YouTube, and that's another show that I was definitely going to watch and then didn't. But they post like full shows once in a while, and they're always so good and they're so well done. They do it right. They make sure that it's all done perfectly. And so that's all.
Talk about a band that's learned a lot from Fish.
Yeah. For anyone out there who's potentially Goose skeptic or who's not, who is fully on board, that Cleveland show that you're talking about that's on YouTube is a full show. Highly, highly recommend that as a way to check out the band. It is one of my favorite shows from their winter tour. And also, please be listening to the Great Beyond podcast here on Osiris
Mhm.
Media, which covers Goose, and had a great episode come out today talking with Coach, one of the jack of all trades for the Goose crew. Amazing episode. Great dudes.
Thank you, Brian.
You're welcome. What else do we got? Anything? Are we good? Did we do it?
I think
We
we
did
did it.
I think we did it. We celebrated Chris Kuroda. We solved date mysteries within Fish history. And we talked about the island tour. This was a really fun episode. We have a bonus episode that is coming out probably on Friday, I think is when it's going to come out, where Megan, what did we talk about in our bonus episode here today?
We talked about our favorite shows from our birthday month.
We did.
So you get to learn our birthdays and you get to hear about our favorite shows.
It was really, really fun. It was excellent. RJ, Megan, this is always a treat for me on Mondays and Wednesdays. We will be back next Monday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern with Benji Eisen to talk through spring. No, actually, that is not true. I'm wrong. I messed up. Sorry. We have an awesome guest on Monday. We're going to be talking with Karina Reichman. Karina Reichman, bass extraordinaire, awesome musician, awesome person. She is the host of the Osiris Media podcast, Inappropriate Happiness. We're going to use this as an opportunity to talk with her about her time sound checking with Fish and talk through some of her favorite MSG shows before we jump into Fish MSG coverage. We will be talking to Benji on Wednesday, where we will be continuing our spring 1992 30 years look back deep dive. A lot of great stuff. Some awesome guests coming up here in the month of April. We will see you all on Monday. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye, everyone.